Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, you may have your seats. You may have your seats. As we ready ourselves for the next speaker, the speaker is ready, and I mentioned he's the Vice Chancellor of International Leadership University, and he has a wealth of knowledge in terms of leadership, particularly in this context. So without further ado, the voice that you'll hear next is that of none other than Prof. Tim Kiruhi. Let's give it up for Prof.
Good afternoon, and praise the Lord. It's a joy, a real joy for me to be here and to see all of you who have taken time out of other things to prioritize being here. Allow me to thank the organizers. Thank you so much, the Global Leadership Congress 2025 for inviting me, the Alwasinas, and of course the host church here and the partnership that you have in the work of the gospel. I came along with a friend and a colleague, Professor David Niyonzima. He's from Burundi. And so he's come all the way. We are having our graduation actually this Saturday, so he's joined us. He's with a sister institution. We have International Leadership University in 8 countries of Africa, so Burundi happens to be one of them, and actually one of the fastest growing, because of the needs that are there and what they are doing to meet them. I'd like to just share a few thoughts, but I would prefer to spend a bit more time hearing from you. So at some point, maybe I may get off the script and just share with you as the Lord leads us during this time. I bring greetings from my wife. I am happily married. I know these days you don't hear that very much. To one wife, my wife Mary, we actually work together. We've worked together for most of our married life. We've been married for 32. So those years are hiding somewhere. And we have 2 grown daughters, one married, the other one independent of us, both of them out of home. So the home has gone back to where we started, what they call the emptiness. But we are happy and glad to be here. I thought maybe just to say something little about love, because it's good to define the terms. Being a teacher, one of the first things we do is to define the terms. So, the famous question, what is love? Now, I'm sure there'll be many, many definitions, isn't it? And so on. So maybe it goes like this. Boy meets girl and begins to spend a bit of time together. And the girl begins to feel a little special and is hoping maybe for the day boy will make his real intentions really known. Maybe you're hoping someday he will say something like, well, I've been thinking about our relationship, and I would like us to take it to the next level. Those are good words to hear, isn't it? Some of you have been there, done that. I can tell. But if boy takes too long, boy child sometimes struggles. The girl may begin to say, what are we, And that's not a good question to be asked, isn't it? And I would also ask the girls, don't be too quick to ask that question, because the guy may overcommit. He may just tell you what he thinks you want to hear. But he may not quite be ready then at least to a heartbreak, isn't it? And so on. So anyway, I'm saying all of this to say that there are very different understandings of love. Some of it is maybe things like, if you loved me, now those are their common lines as well. You would share with me all about yourself or things like that, maybe even your money for that matter, or your friends or things like that. Not impossible, but that is best done, of course, in a very committed relationship. If you loved me, I'm trying to come last to the one that maybe is most common. If you loved me, maybe, you'd make me happy. How come you don't make me happy? Now, another person can attempt, but not quite get there. Maybe the one that the most common line is, if you'd love me, you would let me. That is when the person is beginning to cross the boundaries, isn't it? And he's saying, if you truly love me, the test is when you allow me to go there. Is that love? That is lust. That is selfishness, isn't it? They don't respect you. That's why they are crossing the line. If they loved you, they would respect your commitment, your boundaries, and so on. So love, there's that's a common thing out there. We believe, and I'm sure you are here because you believe that love has a different starting point. It starts with giving. It starts by doing. It starts by serving. And that's why God, who is love, even everybody ever asks you, what is love? God says what? The Bible tells us what? God is love. He's the fullest embodiment of the love that we all desire. And he starts by giving of himself, giving ultimately his son, Jesus Christ. So I just thought we'll talk a little bit about that so that when you talk about love-inspired leadership, it's a leadership that comes from a place of giving, a place of serving, a place of making a difference for others. That is not what most people understand. Very often, the world's definition of love is getting. It is having. It is acquiring. All those things. But the truly loving person has learned to give, and so on. What about leadership? It's a very common term again today. That's the discipline I teach in. What is leadership? There is no one single definition, so I'm not looking for a right or wrong answer. And I wish, again, I could interact a bit more. But because of time, maybe I'll go over it quickly and so on. I've given a definition there that maybe has been displayed, or they'll get to the next slide. And basically is to do with inspiration. That's a big word or key aspect of leadership. Inspiring others. Which kind of people? I talk about willing followers. Maybe that one should strike a bell a bit. Why willing? Some of you have been prefects in school or other leadership levels at college. Have you always led willing people? Sometimes they're not willing to follow, isn't it? But the real art of leadership is to turn unwilling people to become willing. They don't always come willing, but a good leader learns how to turn those unwilling people to become willing. When I interviewed for this position that I hold now, there were two of us with another good brother. In fact, in some ways, in my mind, he was more qualified. He was already a professor. I was only a doctor that time. In academia, those things matter. But for some reason, the board or council settled on me. And he was already in the institution. So I knew I had a difficult task of helping him to be a willing follower. That's not easy always, isn't it? Because he had also felt he was qualified for the role. So I had to go and humble myself and tell him, brother, I'm actually surprised that I was picked, even though I offered myself. But I know you had certain visions and desires for this institution. Let me know what you had in mind that you wanted to do for the institution. And he was gracious to share with me. And therefore I told him, you have all my support. I'll create room enough. The vision is big enough for you to fulfill what you wanted to do. You know what that does? It just takes away some of the bitterness sometimes, or sense of feeling of kiwaru, as we say in Kenya. I didn't get this thing, isn't it? So turning unwilling people to be willing to accomplish a cause that is beneficial or significant. Leaders accomplish. Leaders do something. I think that was what Nyawera was telling us this morning. It's not just about good intentions, isn't it? It's about what you do, what you accomplish, and so on. So I just thought to put that in a backdrop so that you can be able to walk with me. And then from there, I wanted to just share a statement. You can go to the next one, the details. You can have this presentation. I learned a long time ago that it's okay to give away. You don't get poorer by giving, isn't it? We are talking about love and so on. So the next slide has some things about followers. And I wanted to talk to us very briefly because many times the reasons why we don't do what we ought to do is a feeling of inadequacy. The feeling of maybe who am I, what do I have, and so on. So look at those. There was a research done, this is in a corporate context, among many leading American companies, about 1,000 of them. When you have that many respondents, it's a very powerful research because then you're having big data. And basically, by somebody called Robert Kelly, and he was trying to find out the role of followers and leaders in an organization. Let's hold it right there. Now, you've already seen maybe the statement, but who do you have guessed before this statement is more important in an organization, the leaders or the followers? Robert Kelly came to the conclusion that followers were more important. But if we put a figure to it, as you can see there, that he was looking at the contribution of leaders, that it was only somewhere between 10% and 20%. I know there's a lot of popularity out there. We talk a lot about the leaders and everything, and so on. And I respect, of course, Marcus' statement. It's a simplification, but basically, it is a critical 10%. That's what he means. He means, when now John Marcus talks about the 10%, is because it's important. But followers contributed 80 to 90%. At the university where I am, I can only contribute so much. I don't have the wisdom and skill to tackle every department, every discipline, and so on. I have to depend on others, isn't it? So, yes, I have a critical role to inspire the team, to guide, but I have to learn to tap into the strengths of everyone else, the whole question of followership. So then how come we are still very obsessed? Also, so in Kenya, who is responsible, if I put it this way, and I do it respectfully, for the mess that we are in? Who is responsible for the mess we are in? Is it the leaders or the followers? Both. You don't want to let them off. Now, many times people will tell me leaders, before this preface. Now, if I hadn't given you this, people say, it's the leaders. And I ask, who puts those bad leaders in office in the first place? Ourselves, isn't it? So we take responsibility. The leaders can only do so much, unless the followers empower them to do that. That's why it's important. And I raise this to just make us aware that even in whatever setting you are in, your estate, your extended family, maybe even immediate family, any other community, whenever things are going wrong, before you blame, ask, what can I do? What could I have done, isn't it? To make a difference and so on. And there's a statement there that many times we blame the failure of organizations just on bad leadership. But that's to oversimplify a complex relationship between leaders and followers. Because those leaders could not be there without the support of followers, in whatever context, isn't it? The people at ILU, the International Leadership University, give me the permission to lead them. They could say one day, we have had enough, isn't it? But they allow me to lead them, of course. Maybe by God's grace, I hope I've earned the right to lead them. Now, over time, it's been 6 years now, to be able to do that. Next slide. Now, I'd like you to focus on this one. Maybe this is what I'll take a bit of time on, and if you have no other time for anything else, I'd like to stay with this one. Let's read that together, if you don't mind. I think most of you can see the words. Let's read together. If you seek to lead, invest at least 50% of your time in leading yourself, your own purpose, ethics, principles, motivation, conduct. Invest at least 20% leading those with authority over you, and 15% leading your peers. So those words were done by D. Hawk. D. Hawk was the founding CEO, the very first CEO of Visa, the company Visa. Most of us in our wallet have got an ATM card that has Visa, isn't it? Became a successful global company everywhere around the world now in terms of money transfer. So he must have known something about leadership and business, isn't it? Because whatever he launched has become a success. And this is what he says. So what do you observe? This one I'll interact with you a little bit. Tell me a few things that you observe. We should be able to make at least 4 thereabout observations. First one, just talk to me if you don't mind. I'm a lecturer, I'm a teacher, so I enjoy hearing back. Since this is a workshop. Go ahead. It starts with yourself. It's the biggest part of leadership. So many times, any of you who have been in a leadership position, maybe as a prefect, you are told your dorm was making noise, or you've been given a task at church, you have a certain responsibility, and maybe pastor came and said, your people didn't perform very well. What is the immediate thing for most of us? Who do we think of correcting? Others. But leadership is about what? Before you go to others, first of all, ask, what could I have done or did I not do that possibly led to this poor performance? Because leadership is mostly about yourself. D. Hawk estimates somewhere around 50%. And then he clarifies some important things there. Your own purpose. You cannot lead people beyond your own clarity of your own purpose. If you don't know where you are going, why you are here, why you are in leadership, and so on, it's going to be very difficult for you to help others. You must clarify that for yourself as a leader. And as you get into a role, be clear. When I eventually got that letter, maybe I can use that illustration. Eventually, when the council came and said, oh, no, the chairman called me and said, oh, I'm calling to congratulate you. We settled on you. I wasn't very clear on why and what I would need to do. I told him, sir, thank you very much. But I had actually been very honest at the interview. I told him I wasn't very sure yet. I was still seeking God as to whether I needed to come because there were many challenges, there were many situations against maybe me going. I was leaving a very good position that used to be much more lucrative, so to speak, than what I do. And, but I knew that season was coming to an end. And so I told him, Chair, thank you very much for the good news, but I'm not sure yet. I had been very honest with you at the interviews. I did let you know if God confirms, this is what I'll do, these are the changes I'll bring, but God has not confirmed. So maybe it's good to pass over me and give the position to someone else. Now he told me, I know you don't do that many interviews, you grab it with both hands. I knew it was not about a position. It was about the contribution that God wanted me to make. So fortunately, he told me, well, we've prayed about this. We are very clear you're the right candidate. Take as much time as you need. That was a bit difficult, isn't it? So I took the next 1 month in prayer and fasting. Wanted to be really sure until God spoke to me one day. And then now I knew it was of God. I called him back and I said, sir, now I'm ready. God has confirmed. And the rest now is a story that has followed. It is important as a leader, you clarify what God wants you to be. Many times you just want the position, but you're not even clear on the contribution it will bring, and so on. You know, the things that I've seen God do now, I understand why he needed me to be clear. Because I didn't have maybe even half of the understanding of what were the issues fully. I had ideas and so on the inklings and so on. But also your ethics, what you'll do or not do. Many times, leadership positions end up destroying people because they're not sure, they have not formed a frame of reference to determine ahead of time what you'll do or not do. You know, if you found a good supplier, you know, we've been doing construction of a new campus now. It's a 180 million project. The first phase only, the whole project is over 1.4 billion. So when the supplier comes and says, you know, I have this little thing for you. In fact, this was a very real one. There was also another project that we are doing right at the campus. Those of you who have been in Kilimani, we are doing a 19-story structure there too. And when we were dealing with a Chinese developer, he came and said, you know, this is about 180, but we can make it 160. And there were two of us. I can give 10 to the two of you. And nobody will ever know. It's just between me and you. And the papers will be okay. I'll make sure they only know 160. What would you do if you got that chance? Would you think about it twice? I do not even think twice. Because I've already clarified what I will do or not do. I told him, not under my watch. It will never happen. Please make it 180 to the organization. God meets my needs. It is important to be clear on that. This is the 50% you are talking about. Taking time to clarify your purpose, your ethics, your principles and motivation. How will you work with others? Will you empower others or will you be treading over others and so on? You know, so being very clear. And then being clear even on the finish line. So I've already done one contract, it's 5 years. The board chose to renew it, which is fine. But I'm very clear that I definitely should not get to the end of the second one. I don't know exactly the date, but I know it will not be 10 years completely. So, but I'm relaxed about it because I know at the right time God will show, and so on. So having your principles clear, your motivation, why are you in this position? You know, that's not easy to determine sometimes, isn't it? The word of God tells us in Hebrews, I think it's in Hebrews 4:12, I believe, that the word of God is able to divide between the soul and the spirit, to divide. To discern the thoughts and attitude of the heart. That's what I was looking for. And only God sometimes can get to that depth and so on. So even sometimes with my best of intentions, I'm human. There sometimes can be human interest, self-interest. And I always want to make sure it's God's interest. I believe that's what love-inspired leadership is about. And of course, your conduct. Then the second one, where you come from in your experience of leadership. Can the second one happen? No, just keep this slide, please. The previous slide. We'll stay with it for a bit. Are 20% leading those with authority over you? How many of us have ever done that? It's not very common, isn't it? Some of you maybe have done it. Maybe you didn't want to raise your hand. But this is an important aspect of leadership. And when I came across this, this is the one that challenged me the most. 20% leading your peer, those with authority over you. And basically what Diok is saying, you are not ready to be a leader unless you are willing to speak up and to challenge authority, but of course respectfully. So I'm not saying that tomorrow, even if I tell you, when I'm in the middle of the statement, you begin now, mapambano or something. What you're trying to say is that I need to be secure enough to be able to receive critique from my team members. Unless I'm willing to do that, I'll be running on one person's wisdom, understanding, and abilities, and so on. But God's design is for us to work as a team and to embody everybody else. So, of course, I have the responsibility to come and bring my best thoughts to the team. But I always leave room that if you have a better idea, please, you can replace some of my ideas. That's okay. And so long as you're willing to bring it up, and so on. Of course, you cannot be opposing all the time. Let me give you a little bit of wisdom here. If you are known that everything that comes up, why must we do it? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about give a positive critique and bring up a better idea, and so on. If as a leader I'm not willing to, because sometimes you're working on financial matters. I'm not an expert in everything finance. Sometimes you're working on technology. Things are changing now. We've been having now to incorporate AI in our teaching and our research. I'm not necessarily the best expert there, so I need to listen to the person who is more skilled in that. There are times that we are handling programs in other areas, although leadership is one of our main causes. We have programs in theology. I have a measure of theological training. There are people who are much deeper than it, in it than me. There are times we are handling mental health and counseling, or ICT and other areas, So unless I'm willing to embrace the collective wisdom of the team, we'll be a weak team. It is important for the leaders to be secure enough. And what they are challenging is not me, they are challenging my ideas. And you learn to divorce yourself from your ideas, isn't it? It's very, very important. Divorce yourself from your ideas so that your ideas can be challenged. That does not mean that you are suffering as a person. And then lastly, that is here, is 15% leading your peers. Let me give an example that maybe will be more at home. Even in the context of a business, the leader of finance should be spending 15% of his time leading the leader of HR or leading the leader of marketing. Those are the peers, people at the same level. I know you possibly haven't had much of that because some of you have a job description if you happen to be having an internship or working, and you know that in your job description there is nothing about leading your colleagues, isn't it? You are given a task, you are given a budget, and you are given deliverables, isn't it? But you all know we are one organization, isn't it? Think about the university where I come from. Can the security man, it's even a subcontracted service, right now we have a company which does that. But can the security man destroy our recruitment efforts and marketing? Yes. By the way, I have a colleague, Tumaini. Where is Tumaini? I think maybe at the back. Yeah, he'll be waiting for you at the back there. But the person at the gate, suppose you came one day, you decided to visit in person. You can do everything online now. But suppose you chose to come in person. And the security man tells you, this can best come out in Swahili. Unakuja kwa hii university. You're coming to this university. Umetatafuta tu Kenya yote, ukapata tu India utakuja, peke yake. Would you have second thoughts about that university? The security man is saying, you've looked all over Kenya, this is the only one. He's casting doubt, isn't it? Our team could be spending millions of shillings in marketing. That one, security man has destroyed quite a bit of our work, isn't it? So we need to win him over. So in fact, I tell you, we feed our security men. It's not required, and women, it's not required by the contract, but they eat with us, they drink with us. We want them to feel part of the team. When we have celebrations, they join in. When we have birthdays and so on. We want them to know they are on the same team with us, because we know we need to work together. HR can be helped by marketing, can be helped by ICT, can be helped by the production team, can be helped by the business management, development team, and so on. Everyone needs to work together. Let me put in the context of a church, since most of us are familiar. In a church context, which is the strongest ministry in most churches? Ushering. Okay, well, in terms of maybe groups, if you think about people groups. Before worship, usually, most churches that are maybe a bit older is a women ministry. It is always women ministry. Which is the weakest ministry in most ministry? I've given you a clue now. It is usually the men's ministry. And unfortunately, sometimes in some churches, youth ministry struggles, and then children's ministry. It is not right that at the end of the year, women's ministry should be presenting their report and saying, look at us, we have even surpassed our goals. But then right in their very homes, the other side of the ministry has not done very well, isn't it? Yeah. The men's ministry should be helping. So part of what we do at ILU, when we finish our strategic planning process, our tactical plans for the year, we all present our plans. And everybody else criticizes and feeds into those plans. So we tell them to ask, what can I do to help you move further with my budget? You don't even have to spend your budget. That way you don't have to spend more money, but we have more synergy, more working together. Are you beginning to get it? Yes. The need for us to work together. That's why it's important to spend time with other departments so that they have an aspiration. They are with you. They understand when you are succeeding, they are succeeding, and vice versa. And at the end of the year, when you do the analysis, those that are weakest, we also ask everybody else, what did you do or not do that one of us is struggling? Because we are as strong as the weakest link, isn't it? So we are not rejoicing that one of us is me, my goals are fine, my scorecard is good. No. You should be concerned about your brother or sister. Because that's how we grow together. We become a stronger unit together. Now, what is missing? I've given you away 2 other things, so just one more because of time. There's something that may be missing. What have you noticed that is missing in that definition? And what percentage goes to that? How many of us need to own up? You had not noticed that 15% is missing. Sema tu kweli. I can see a few hands. Some of us are not very mathematically oriented. So 15% is missing. D-Hawk is basically saying, if you do these things right, you might as well forget about the people that you lead. Because they will naturally follow. You're a person of good character, then your heart can be trusted, your words are truthful and can be trusted, and you are also caring, you are going to protect them with those that have authority over the team. So I always tell them, my team, do anything you need to do. If you ever make a mistake while trying to do the right thing, I'll take the bullet. I'll take the heat. So that way they are free to innovate, they are free to be creative, so long as the intention is right. Now, not when you're messing around. That's what I can't take care of. But if you can show that actually I was trying to get to something bigger and better for ILU, I'll take the responsibility. So that's protecting them from those with authority over them, and so on. Have we learned something about leadership here? I really think this is a short one-slide summary of what leadership for me is about. If you can be able to do this, because this leadership is not about you. You can see the leader is taking care of themselves and then taking care of those others who have authority to support the team because they are protecting the team. So I'm choosing to take the bullet on behalf of many people, who of course is human to err, isn't it? So every once in a while, yes, I'm caught up and I have to go and apologize to the council or the board and on behalf of the team to say, no, we did make this mistake. It's not a nice one, but we are trying to get to something bigger and better. Please bear with us. We are going to be better next time. And of course, we put the safeguards, measures, and so on. and leading our peers. I think I'll just do one last slide and then hold it at that point if it's okay. I wanted to close with this one and then tell you one or two stories. So the Lord said, if as one people, speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. In Genesis 11, verse 6. What a wonderful promise. This is God himself making this declaration, isn't it? That if these people, now there's a condition though. If us, one people. What's another word we could use for one people? United, so the whole idea of doing it together. I think that's something we need to rediscover. We've learned a lot in the social media and maybe a lot of the books today and materials talk about the individual, the power of the individual. Now, not very true. There is a place for the individual. But it is good to remember. Now, as good Africans, we should always be remembering. We are called to community, to communion. We are stronger together as one people, speaking the same language. Now, this is not your mother tongue. In case you are thinking, maybe this is my mother tongue now. This is our turn. As Kenyans, we like to do that. What is the language here? Is a vision that unites you. Together we want to do this. So our vision, and I'll show you maybe just a few slides, at the International Leadership University to raise leaders of integrity, to multiply people of integrity. We believe that even in this day and age, when there's so much corruption, it is possible to be people of integrity who will be able, in fact, they are the only ones we believe that can be able to bring transformation to society. And then, being able to do this, that God says nothing will be impossible. Now, you heard about those involvements in Vision 2030 and Chapter 6 of the Constitution and so on. Well, that would be almost the middle part of the journey. How did it all begin? It began as a student, as a university student, wrestling with what God's purpose for my life was. I was an engineering student many years ago, and that in those days, if you are doing engineering, it's a sure path to success. So in my days, engineering students, there was only one university, by the way, in our country offering engineering, the University of Nairobi, and there were only a class of 35, and we were the only engineers being trained. Those days, again, Kenya had so many working industries. Industrial area, if you went there, it was just a buzz with industry. The other day I was there, I was kind of depressed because I knew what it was like in the 80s, and now all those industries are rotting. They are all closed down. But in my days, so we didn't have to look for a job. The jobs were looking for us. So before I could finish university, I had 3 job offers personally from some of the best employers. But I was wrestling with God's will for my life. We talked about purpose. I was wrestling with that. I had been involved with a ministry in evangelism discipleship. And I'd find a lot of fulfillment in that. And I had seen many people's lives change, some of my colleagues and so on. And I had actually even been asking the people who are involved, there were Muslim missionaries from the West, and I was asking them, how come there are no Kenyans doing this? And this looks to be so meaningful. And they'll keep saying, we've been praying for one of us, for one of you, to be able to join. I said, no, I'll also pray. The way you are also full of psych, Well, when you genuinely pray, many times you become the answer to your own prayer. So the Lord called me away from engineering. Maybe if I don't mind, because this may give you the context. I had a first-class honors in mechanical engineering. But the Lord said, this is not my path for it. It's my path for others, not for you. For you, I want you to follow me into ministry. The University of Nairobi had already offered a full paid scholarship. Those days, scholarship meant a stipend on top of the fees. So you'll not pay, you'll be paid to go to school. And he said, this is also not my path for you. And it was not easy for me those days because I didn't know where, life would lead. The only person who I knew had kind of done that thing was an evangelist in my village. Very godly man. He had memorized many parts of the Bible. He could say it from memory. But his life did not look very attractive. I'm sorry, Pastor, I know it's not your life. But that was in my generation. So in fact, I didn't even know Nairobi very well. I came from the village, but I had a friend in golf course. And one day he had shown me And I say this not to despise any of you. If that's your background, that's just where we are coming from. That's the past, not where you are going. But I knew Kibera Line is Saba. I had looked over there and I thought, this is the only place a person of the kind of calling God is giving me can live. So I would wrestle with God. Is this what you do to your friends? You don't have something a little better. But by the grace of God, he gave me the grace to follow. 36 years later, I have no regrets. I should only have gone a little faster. But I did struggle that time. My parents too, who are godly man and woman, they had actually, been partly responsible for leading me to the faith. This one was also a shocker for them. My mother especially, because one of the factories I'd worked for is East Africa Industries, Unilever. So for 4 years, 1 year before university, or my time at university, my mother never bought Blue Band and Omo, and I can't remember all the other things we did those days. They had some soaps, Lux, Rexona, Dio sprays, and so on. In fact, my mother had so much that she was kind of like a distributor in the village. Other women would come and get from her because her good son. So she was saying, my son, she is now late. God bless my mother. She says, son, are you saying the supply line is cutting? And I would say, Mama, Jesus seems to say that. And I know you love Jesus, you want to read it, and so on. So I wanted to share that because sometimes when you hear about the accomplishments, there is sacrifice and a willingness to follow the Lord's voice. During this congress, my prayer is that you be willing to say yes to Jesus. I know it may not look rosy. It had a cost to my life as well. My wife, Mary, was not my girlfriend then. I had a special friend for about maybe 5 years by the time that call came. Tried to push it for another 2 or 3. And eventually she told me, I'm sorry, I wanted to marry an engineer. I cannot see the future here. So she walked out on me. I was heartbroken, and left there. So it's not easy following the Lord's call, following your purpose. But if you do, you will